Welcome back, everybody. Automotive Inc. Today we're doing a repair of our Chevy Avalanche seat. This is a 2007, but 2007, 2013 Tahoe, Yukon, Avalanche, Silverado, Sierra, all the same. Before we get started, please smash the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell so we're doing a chronological cleanup and detail and work on the Avalanche. It doesn't need a ton of work, but we're going to put this on now. Typical of this year, the seats on the driver's side get the most wear typically, and they crack. And you can get a repair done, but I'm going to tell you guys that most of the time the repairs don't last long, don't do well, and everything. So you have to decide, does this look best or does this new seat cover? Well, this seat cover set was about 180 bucks, free returns. They have black, tan, and gray, or titanium if you want to call it. And then I have a separate video on how to remove the seat. You're going to have to remove the seat from the truck. I'll link that down below. But for 180 bucks to get all of this out. Now, if you just want to detail your seat, I will link it in there below. But I've done some repairs in the past, and there are companies that come out. In the repairs, they look good for about a year, and then they crack again, and they just don't look good. And again, this is leather. I'm pretty sure that this is a leatherette, which would be just fine. There's no cooling element in this Euro seat, so there's no perforation. So we're going to just do that. Again, I will link the video down below on how to do it. Now, the kit doesn't come with any instructions, so we'll just go step by step. But watch that video on how to remove the seat first, get everything cleaned up, and then we'll go from there. So first things first, guys, there is a 7mm screw right there. You're going to need a socket wrench, take that bad boy out. Then remember, you're dealing with 10, 15-year-old plastics, so have the right tools to take those off. And obviously, we got a dirty area because we were working on cleaning up the base of this before we even start this project. So put a towel down or whatever, but you can take it, rock it around and everything. Then we're going to come back to the back. We're going to tip it up. Now, once you get your new seat cover on, obviously, make sure it's super clean or you have a towel. Then you're going to come back here, and underneath here is this little push tab. So this was on the other side of this. So you can see it right there, the little push tab. My suggestion is, like I said, just push it up with your thumb and then pull it apart. So that's the trailing edge. So push it up and then pop it loose. So now we got loose on both sides. While you have this apart, it's a good opportunity to go ahead and clean this up. And then this piece right here is just stuck down. So you're going to pop this loose from its little catches. And then, like I said, just be real careful. If it's a super cold day, warm up the garage before you do it, or the seat's pretty heavy, so you'll carry it in the house or whatever and do it that way. But yeah, so we're going to pop this loose real quick, and then we'll get these cleaned up while they're off. All right, so that's what it's going to look like once you get back here. And then from here, you can see we have our guides and our little push clips. I'd encourage you guys to get a body removal panel tool. Let me show you what that looks like. So these usually come in a kit. You can decide which one you want to use, and you can start towards one edge or the other. Go slow though, because you don't want to break any of these prongs. You might be able to find these plastics new, but I highly doubt it. So we'll go ahead and pop these loose and pull each panel off. Now, what this allows you to do, this tool, is you can actually get underneath the metal clip versus just trying to pull on the plastic itself. So you can even reach through here with this one or one of the plastic ones and get down to each one and pry up on the metal and the plastic versus just plastic, because sometimes these clips will stay in and they're supposed to stay on the metal so that way they don't tear off. And it's the best way. This is such a cheap set that I'll link it, but I mean, super inexpensive. So get the right tool so you don't damage the plastics. So you're going to see those are your 4 catches right there. And then this little lip right here just catches on the other side of this right here. So just work it out and you should be good. It's a good opportunity to also vacuum and clean this up. You'll need to disconnect the connections here. There's a little clip on the inside. You're just going to take your finger and pop it up. If you have to use a finger or a screwdriver, it's on this side. You can look in there, push in first, release usually comes out. Then there's one more connector here. The push piece is on the inside here, so you're going to push down, push the connector in, push down on the back side of it, wiggle it out. You'll need both hands for that. So we'll take an opportunity to get this cleaned up. On the inside, it's pretty dirty. So we got this side off. This is the hardest side. Just remember that the wiring runs over the metal brace here. When you put it back on, don't put it underneath it or anything like that. And so now we'll pull off this other side. So same thing. You can see that the metal right there, that clip. That one came out when I separated the two pieces of plastic here. This side doesn't have as deep as piece of plastic, but we have one more push point down there we'll use the tool on, and then it should come up and over the seat belt. You shouldn't have to remove that. So for ease of doing this, I did remove, it is a 16 millimeter right here. So we could remove the seat belt and just, you can let it hang for a second so we can get that off. It does have a cutout edge, but it was not wanting to wiggle past it. So now we got the plastics off. Really from this point, it's going to be about pulling off the old seat cover itself. And you shouldn't have to separate the back from that if you chose to. There's heating element up in there, so you'd have to be aware of that, but I'm not going to do that. We'll go ahead and set it back up now that we got those pieces done. If you want, guys, you can go ahead and attach the seat belt. It goes back in the hole. For now, you can do that so it's not just dangling. We don't want to damage that cord. So I'll just go ahead and tighten it back up. Now the seat's pretty pokey. It's got a lot of metal, sharp plastic pieces, so probably want to wear a pair of gloves while you're pulling the old pad off. I'd start in the back, and in my experience, you're always going to want to start on the front because that's always going to be the pickle, and then stretch it around the rest of the way. We have a hook point here, hook point there, hook point over there, and then of course the one in the front. Because the area is tight, I like to use these. It has an upper lip here. You can stick this in and unstretch it from there. Now, hopefully the new one's going to be a lot tighter because this one's worn out. But we got the front one done, or this side done, and then we're going to come over here and do the same thing. I'm basically going to take it, and I'll link these little tools, guys. They're super cheap, and it comes with the big one or a little one, depending on what kit you get. So, see if I can get a good focus here. So, you can just hook this in that lip. Whichever way works. Then you can see it just comes around the corner there and pops off. So now we got that one, and then we'll flip it up and do the front. So there are two little areas of Velcro located right behind here. So I believe we're going to have to take the back loose to some extent. To undo this wiring, we'd have to take this loose and disconnect it. So that's going to be a little bit more aggressive. So we're going to take this back of the seat loose and then see if we can untie the wiring up here. To take the seat back off, just take this tool right here, and about halfway through you'll feel a nudge. So if you put it in here, you can feel it goes all the way. As soon as it touches something, back off a little bit. All you have to do is then push down on this with your hand and push up. It has two little clips that hold it there, and then the rest is going to be those pinch clips as they go up. So real quick on this, again, I use this tool to go in the back, and I just kind of push them. You're going to need to do the bottom first, work your way up. The top two come loose pretty quick. Then once we get here, since how the back's going to be replaced anyway, we can see that we can probably undo these lower bolts here just to give us some room. So if you have like a 5-gallon bucket to set it on, but then we can actually disconnect the upper back piece up here to give it that extra room. We may not even need it. We could probably just set it on a bucket. I'll play with it for a second and I'll come back and tell you how I did it. Okay, so the best way I found was we set it on a bucket. These are 15 mils, one on each side. There's an extra brace on that side, so make sure you put that right side up, and I'll show you here in a second because we need to access this piece of Velcro. Now, the new seat did come with new foam, but if you have a heating element, that may be on there for good. So I'm probably not going to screw with that, to be honest with you. And we're probably going to want to stretch, because it doesn't come with new headrest covers, we're going to want to stretch the back cover almost at the exact same time over it and get it secured, and then put it all back together at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and pull off the front cushion, and then the front lip will just pop off. So before you just start yanking, if you think you're going to reuse your stock foam, there's these little orange clips in there that this little catch is. You're just going to push it down on one side with your thumb and pop them loose as you come up. If you just start yanking, you'll probably tear them right out of the foam. As you go up, you see you got a couple towards the back and you have two in the middle. So go slow, do each side at each time. So got that off. Once you get to the front, you'll just need to peel it off. Now the new foam, this foam isn't all that broke down. I would use the new foam. However, GM has this glued to the padding. You obviously didn't get a new heating element, so we are just going to stretch the new one over this, because again, it's glued back here, and I'm not going to mess with damaging the heating element trying to get it off to replace the foam. If the foam was super broke down, if this was really bad, then I would say, yeah, let's go for it. And if any of these little prongs had ripped out, if you aren't careful and you rip them out, then you're probably gonna have to use the new pad, and you're gonna have to figure out some way to cut this off. If you care about the heating element, I do. I think the seat worked really nice. So we're gonna go ahead and get the new cover out. I don't believe they're not marked. I don't believe that it matters in which one goes on what side. So there's not a driver's side or whatever. So you can see the old one, and then we can see the new one. Somebody said the colors don't match, but I held it up to the back seat, which is way cleaner. This seat was pretty gross and dirty, and it looks like it's the same, so I can't imagine. So we're going to go ahead and get the new one stretched over. And then once we get that done, we'll set out a blanket and do the upper back piece here in just a second. Okay, so the next part was wanting me to pull my face off on this. Obviously it's been folded up and everything, but they have these like little, I'll show you on the old one here. All right, so these get clipped back into the clips that were on the stock foam. And it is a pain. You basically have to fold the cover back, pull it tight against the front as you go. You're not clipping it to the front metal piece yet, and you have to work your way back, and then you have to get to this middle section here. Meanwhile, keeping the heating element good. I think this will probably stretch out and look fine. Anything looks better than the Holy material. So now I got it all clipped there. So now I'm going to clip the sides and clip the front in. And on the front, you're just going to roll it around and clip it on that metal edge. I mean, it pretty much gets to its own place. I mean, you really can't screw that up. But as you work the clips back, you're going to have to push down here and underneath the foams, because right now it's just kind of loose up on the metal frame. Clip it as you go. And I think that once we stretch it around and clip it, especially once we get it onto the thing, I'm just using the foam itself to lay the base on. I'm hoping the back is only clipped in and then stretched in versus this one. But we'll get to that one here in a second. Again, you'll have to reuse your stock headrest, but that should be okay. But I mean, it looks pretty good so far. It is wrinkly because it's folded up, but we'll see how much it stretches out. But that process right there, you're going to work from front to back. Don't clip it in yet on the front until you get all the clips done. That's why it's imperative you don't rip the clips out of the old one when you take it off, because otherwise you'll have to use that one and have to figure out how to use your heating element unless you don't care about that. That's up to you guys. So now, like I said, we're going to roll it over, clip the front in. So like I said, a lot of stuff sharp under there. Of course, took my gloves off for a second, got busy, didn't come back to putting them on. Anyway, the side straps are pretty easy to connect. Put one side or the other on, roll it onto the side or a towel or whatever. Then once we get to the back piece, don't forget to put the Velcro pieces on underneath there. And then from here, it's pretty much attached to the frame, guys. So now we're going to go ahead and just stretch it around and hook it on the back like it was. Then we're going to move to the upper piece on the back. Okay, so I just flipped the base over and let the weight compress the foam a little bit so I get just enough to hook it there. So now the base is done other than putting the plastics back on. The only hitch in the giddy up I see is it's a little tight right here for this piece. So I may trim that out because that clip has to go behind that bar. So, but we may cut that out with a X-Acto knife because that's where one of our prongs goes for the plastics. So it was definitely a pain in the ass. It does look better, and I think once you sit on it and it situates itself in, those wrinkles will come out. But it already had wrinkles from being old anyway, so I'm not super worried about it. So now we're going to pull off the headrest in the back and see how that works. Now take the headrest out on a GM seat on the older ones. There's a pinhole, so the one side has the clicker. You push it in, you pull it up, you pull it past the last point. The other side has this little hole, and I use just a little brad or a little nail, put it in there. It's a tiny nail, and once you push that, you'll be able to pull that past. So we're good there. My assumption is this is going to have the same type of clips, and if it has the same type of clips, I'm not sure how we get past the actual mechanism there without taking it out. So we're gonna see what it's all about. Now you're gonna have to remove the headrest tubes. I'm gonna show you how to do that. As you can see, there's the two barrels. It's just a pinch clip. We're gonna take a pair of pliers right there on that black tube, one on each side, squeeze it and pull up, and they'll come out. So once you get that out, there are clips. So you're just gonna have to do the same thing. But I think once we get towards the bottom, we may have to remove that mechanism. Again, this is not gonna be a job for the weak at heart, but if you take your time, you can get it done. So, like I said, we're just gonna work through here, and this will have a heating element in it too, so we want to be careful of that. All right, so we worked our way all the way down. Now we're ready to undo it from the back, and we're gonna run into the same pickle because there is one clip down here. You can barely reach it with your finger going through the thing. So we'll probably start on the bottom and then stretch it up because we can get to the upper piece of foam clips pretty easily. Again, the foam looks pretty good on this, so I am happy about that. But we're going to unwrap one of the backs and see if they cut us holes for the actual headrests. But you can see that GM really didn't do much different. They just cut themselves a hole and jammed it in there. So it's not like it was machine cut. Looks like razor blade. So let's get this last bad boy off. Okay, so I started at the bottom. I hooked it first initially. Then I started working up my way again. Got to the middle. Now I'm ready to flip the back over and stretch the back. And then we will cut the holes with just an X-Acto knife. We're going to keep it. We're just going to make an X and cut it out. But we're going to stretch it all first. All right, and then you stretch the bottom. I'm going to link these in the website too. These are like super grippy gloves. I use them to hand tighten oil filters when you're around sharp stuff, but you need good grip because they don't take up a lot of room. They still give you tactile movement. But, god dang. Whew. So now we're ready to put it back together. The seat back, we'll spin it back around. And don't forget to put that bracket on there. So we'll spin it around and put it back together. Still got some wrinkles in it. I'm okay with that. There's no cuts, no tears. It does look good. GM uses about 80% vinyl, so the backs, the tops, the sides, a little bit on the actual seat back, and a little bit on the bottom is actually real leather. So I'm okay with the fact that this is probably a pleatherette. It could be leather. I wasn't paying attention, but for the cost, I'm assuming it's pleather. So once we get it back up, I'm going to show you how to cut the holes and reinstall the headrests. All right, so that's it put back together. Again, it's got some wrinkles. It's cold. hopefully it'll just kind of sag out. But you know, to be honest with you, without the cracks, without the cuts in the leather, this still looks 100% better. And GM trucks of the era before that kind of had wrinkly leather anyway. So I'm okay with this look, especially as you sit in it and it kind of adjusts and moves around. So now we got to do the holes for the headrest. So how I'm going to suggest doing it is, because we don't know if it's exactly the same length, is get a long screwdriver like this. You can go up through the holes right here. Let's see here. Line it up. Then you can come up here, because the holes don't have to be that big. So you can actually just dimple it and then draw on it with a marker. And then we'll cut it out. So the old headrest holes seem like they were more closer to the front seam right there. But I think we're going to be okay doing that, because they don't have to be monstrous holes. It's going down through the fiber. It doesn't have to be the same size hole as that was. We just need to make it about the same size as the headrest tube. So we're going to dimple it, mark it, and cut it with basically a razor blade, and then stick them through there. All right, so we got the tubes back in there, got the headrest back in, and then the assembly is going to be just like the disassembly. So just go with the back. When you put the back panel back on, like I said, it's a good time to clean stuff up. Clean off the inside. I got some soapy water. I'm going to dry it off. Start at the top. You're going to put these two hooks in these upper holes, and then start working your way down. And once you get to the bottom, it'll snap through those two holes that are cut in the new seat cover. Then we're going to reinstall the side covers. Again, we might have to trim a little bit of leather away from this side because it's covering up that hole. Not a big deal though. You just cut it with an X-Acto knife, razor blade, whatever. Cut short and then cut longer if you need it. All right, that's it. All said and done. It does look better. I think the wrinkles will kind of pull themselves out as it gets situated there. Definitely looks better than the old one. All right, guys. That is not an easy job. It's not for the weak at heart. So it's going to take some time. Getting the seat out, that didn't take all that long, but just getting it pulled over and everything, you're probably looking at a couple hours per seat. But it's better than a repair. As always, guys, I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one.